Hello and welcome to Robots Reading Reddit. Today we've compiled a thread called "What was your scariest a second later and I would have died moment?" So if you're prone to overthink things and anxiety, this thread will for sure leave you feeling a bit nervous. And if you still feel like life is totally under your control, I highly recommend you check out the thread we compiled and made a video about that I will link at the end of this video. We will start with an answer from user Kimbok. My friend and I were taking an elevator down to the cafeteria in our dorm in college. For some reason, we were arguing about something when the doors opened, so we hung back for a second. Then the elevator dropped 2 floors with the doors open. I still hate getting in or out of elevators, and I do a weird running start every time. Elevators are bad enough without falling while the door is open. Just getting stuck in one is traumatizing enough. Ethanland's post will definitely make you feel better though. Outside my college dorm my freshman year there was this stoop that was half under the building, half out from under it. The building was 18 stories tall. So I'm sitting out there on the steps, not under the building, and I get up for no real reason and walk under the building. As soon as I get under the building, a huge sheet of glass falls right where I was sitting. Some idiots were messing around on the 11th floor and knocked a 10x9 window pane out of its mooring. From random acts of almost dying by accident to not so random acts of being killed. Clipper ad headlining and featuring kittens not kids. I cannot confirm whether this would have been death, however it would have changed my and my parents' life like death. I was about 6 or 7 and I went along with my mum to go train the new puppy we had. The training ground was quite far away from home, and I remember that it was a big field surrounded by a forest and a motorway on the side of it. I was told to stay in the car and play on my Game Boy, back when they were a thing. After an hour or so I got bored, and I went to have a look at where my mum was with our puppy. The car park was a little while from the training ground, but I decided to walk towards her anyway. In the meantime an older man, 30, starts talking to me, and being the naive little boy I talked back, regardless of all the times my mum told me to not talk to strangers. He convinced me I was going the wrong way and told me he would take me to my mum and puppy. We ended up by the motorway side and we were about to walk down the bank to the side of the motorway where his car was parked. As I'm about to disappear down the bank I hear the loudest scream of my name from my mum. I look back and feel the grip of the man tighten on my hand, but I was just in time to get my hand out of his grip and run towards my mother. My mum runs past me to see where this guy is, but he had just got into his car and drove off. To this day I still imagine about the what if scenario and how close I was to being kidnapped and potentially killed. When I was around 7 to 8 my mom brought my sister and I to a birthday party barbecue at my aunt's house. My aunt's backyard backed up to a golf course and my sister and I were playing in the yard while my mom chatted with her friends. An older man approached us from the golf course and asked us to help him find golf balls. Sounded like fun, so we went with him to help. He led us further and further away from the party and had just told us to come with him into the woods to look there when we heard our mother screaming our names. I turned to look at her and saw her running after us. When I turned back around the man was running off into the woods. It took me years to realize that he was probably attempting to kidnap my sister and I and did God knows what. Scary shit. So yeah, that's terrible. Let's see if we can't find some other not so random acts of almost dying by NZT48 rules. When I was in junior high I was carpooling with another kid and her mom. For a reason I can't fathom she decided to race a transit train hoping to get across the tracks before the train stopped traffic. She gunned the car. I was in the backseat screaming no. She hit the train. Because I was in the backseat I was injured the least. I had a pointy piece of metal pierce through my jeans and flesh until it hit bone. Had she been a second faster the train would have hit us broadside and killed us all. My lucky giraffe. I was working on a pipe crew in 1998. We were installing a large concrete vault in a pretty big hole. I'm standing in a ditch about 6 feet deep marking grade while the excavator operator is digging. So to the front of me is a large excavator bucket, itself weighing hundreds of pounds, and backed by powerful hydraulics and thousands of pounds of steel armature, and behind me is a solid concrete wall about a foot thick. and the ditch is only a few feet wide and too tall for me to jump or climb out of with any kind of speed. Suddenly the excavator spins to one side and the arm snaps out to full extension with full force, and the operator shuts it down. The bucket missed my head by about a foot. He climbs out of the machine, visibly shaken, and tells me that something has failed on the machine and the arm wasn't supposed to have done that. So as he's been digging, he's been noticing that ever so slightly there's a bit of a delay between his inputs and the machine's actions, and in the moment before failure he just felt something wasn't right and tried to pull the bucket in when it didn't seem to want to. He turned the excavator just in case, and that's when the arm extended. Had he not, I would have been crushed to death. There were 2 other excavator operators on that crew, and they were basically idiots. Had one of them been with us that day, I'm sure I'd be dead. By Pablo Alvarez. When I was 5 or 6, we were on holidays in Australia. My mother took me to a beach that is known because it's safe thanks to a net system that doesn't let the sharks in. Well, when we arrived the beach was empty, what was kinda strange, but we continued to have a beach day and we had a bath. My mother even swam from one point to another. After that, we were going to the car and some authorities saw us. They told us to not enter the beach because a family of alligators had entered in the water and it was really dangerous. So that seems bad, but users Dorito enthusiast and Full Plenty will make it so much worse with their responses to Pablo's post. Since this is in Australia, these would be saltwater crocodiles, which are a lot stronger and bigger. For those who don't know, the saltwater crocodiles you get in northern Australia are a candidate for most dangerous animal in the world. Fully grown males are 20 feet / 6 meters long and 2,500 pounds / 1,100 kilos, and they are much more aggressive and much less sleepy and lethargic than other crocodiles or alligators. If you encroach on their territory, they are very likely to chase and bite you. Their bite is the strongest of any animal recorded, 3,700 pounds per square inch on an average sized croc. They can bite through your skull the way you bite through a peanut. By Boom 777. On 16th December 2004, I was with a friend having a beer in a bar on the Koh Sanadi in Bangkok, Thailand. It was the last week of my bumming round the world, and we had a decision to make. Do we go home for Christmas or spend it on the beach in Phuket? Neither of us had been to Phuket, and we thought it would be an awesome end to living out of a backpack for the last 18 months. But on the other hand, Christmas at home with the family was also appealing. So we flipped a coin and went home to the UK. Flipping that coin a second earlier or later could have sent us into the path of the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. By the hilariously named Dildo Swag In. Not necessarily a second later, more like a few seconds earlier, but whatever. I worked at a private gun range for almost a decade and had one encounter where I could have nearly gotten killed. I was in what we called a trap house, a little bunker that holds a machine that throws clay targets for people to shoot. When we go into said bunker, we put a giant traffic cone on top of it that basically tells people, there's someone in there, keep your shotguns at your side unloaded, and wait for them to exit. One day I was fixing some issues with the machine and was about to exit. I realized I left my bowl on the back shelf and stepped back and grabbed it. The second I did, I hear a shell go off and the cone on top of the house gets obliterated and falls in front of me. Turns out one of our members had his daughter there and was teaching her how to trap shoot. He didn't realize she loaded a shell when he was teaching her how to aim. Irrelevant cause his gun shouldn't have been pointed down range. He lost his membership over that incident. This is the last post of the video. You can find the whole thread linked below if you want more of this thread. By WeirdBeard92. I did some volunteering abroad in a place that had a shit ton of feral street dogs. Usually they minded their own business and were easily scared away. I tended to carry a piece of rebar in my backpack for this purpose, but occasionally they would gang up and maul people, generally kids and old people. One night I got woken up by the sound of a bunch of them barking and howling. I wouldn't have minded, except I also heard the sound of a woman screaming. I ran out into the street to check it out, turned a corner, and saw the biggest pack of them I'd ever seen, like 30 dogs, all circling around this lady. I started yelling and throwing rocks thinking they'd scatter, which is when the whole pack immediately turned their attention towards me. They were coming at me with their teeth bared and their ears back, and I remember being really intensely aware of the thought, okay, I'm going to die right now. It was at that moment that a dude in a rickshaw came tearing down the road, flashing his lights and honking. This made the dogs bolt. Driver saved my life, or at the very least prevented a wicked bad mauling. It was a really great affirmation about how most people will do what they can to help you when you need it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, the one linked right next to me is even crazier and will most likely leave you feeling a bit weird. Do all the YouTube things and I'll see you later.